there, Griff Hamlin here from Blues Guitar Unleashed. Welcome. Thanks for joining me in today's video. I don't really know how to explain this. I gotta be perfectly honest. I'm not exactly sure how to tell you exactly what we're going to do. I wasn't really sure how to demonstrate it, but I'm gonna tell you that it's one of the most important things you need to know how to do. It is being able to reliably and accurately subdivide beats into groups of 2, which are eighth notes, or groups of 3, which are eighth note triplets. More importantly, you need to be able to go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Now, this is one of those things that it always amazes me because every other instrument on the planet has to learn how to do this kind of stuff like right off the bat. Piano players, horn players, string players, other than guitar players, obviously. This is just a normal thing, how to play eighth notes. Your ear has to be able to subdivide those beats. As guitar players, I think because it's more of a folk instrument, it tends to be, you know, somebody shows you, hey, here's how to play this thing. You know, we tend to learn in bits and pieces. It doesn't have that, you know, traditional pedagogical approach. So I think because we don't have that, we sort of miss a lot of these kinds of things. And the reality is that if you can't do this, the idea of just feeling the music and being able to play in time and being able to play accurately isn't going to happen for you. And that's a real problem, and much more so than you realize. I have students come in all the time that, you know, struggle to subdivide eighth notes reliably. And so, of course, when they go to play something that is eighth notes, it never quite locks in. So if you ever feel like you're that person who plays something pretty well, but you never seem to get it perfect, or you never feel like you own it, my guess is, from my experience, 99 out of 100 times, this is why. So let me show you how we're going to work on it. I'm not going to teach very much. I'm going to show you the process that I would suggest that you use because it's worked for me with my students. This is how I would suggest you approach that. Okay, so let's start with something very simple. I'm even going to turn off the overdrive. We're going to go totally clean and simple. Good old A minor box 1. Okay, now I'm going to start very, very basic. You may want to, you know, skip ahead a little bit if what I start with here is super, super, super simple. But I want to take my time and make sure that, you know, no matter where you're at, you can start this process and you can build up to the final result. The end result of this is to have a click, like 1, 2, 3, and be able to go eighth note, triplet, eighth note, triplet, eighth note, triplet, eighth. And to do that with a metronome going and not mess up, to actually stay with it. In order to be able to do that, you have to already be able to reliably do eighth notes and not mess up, and triplets and not mess up. So I'm going to show you how to do that first, right? There's, you know, one thing begets another. That's just kind of how this works. So when we have eighth notes, we are dividing each note into 2 pieces, each beat, I should say. And this is a very standard, you know, we tend to call it a straight feel. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Now you'll notice that I'm using my knee, right? I'm keeping my own time. I'm not using a metronome. I'm going to break that out in a second because that is going to be a valuable and important part of this process. But for now, if the metronome is beeping or clicking or ticking and you're not following it, it's not doing you any good. It's just making noise. We don't want that, okay? So again, this is my beat. Tick, 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 right? So I want to have 1 and I want to count out loud. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. I'm just playing good old A minor pentatonic box 1. I don't care if you double the note at the top. I don't care if you only play the top 4 strings. Shoot, I don't care if you only play like the house pattern. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. You can use a major scale. 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. What is not important is which scale or pattern or whatever you use. What is important is that you can do it easily, because I don't want you to have to concentrate on the notes. You're going to be very focused on the rhythm and the counting and subdividing and all that kind of stuff. So that's what we have for eighth notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Okay, when we break into triplets, we have it a little bit differently, because now we have 1 and Notice that my leg comes up on the 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... Okay, so the first step in this process is being able to do that. Play that scale all the way through, tapping your foot, counting it out loud in both eighth notes and what we call triplets. There are eighth note triplets, to be specific. There are quarter note triplets, there are 16th note triplets. These are eighth note triplets. These are the two most fundamental units used in pretty much all music. So they're good ones. Now, let's say you can do that. We have to put that to a metronome. All right, so here's my metronome going at 60 beats per minute. In order to play the eighth notes, it's going to be... What I have to listen for, and what you may want to do first before you play, is count. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and... Okay, so if you can do that, it's easier to sort of keep track of your voice. So I know that when I say 1, I should hear that click or beep, right? Mine's right here. Yours might be over there. Mine's right here, all right? 1, and 2, and 3, and 4. It's a lot easier to monitor my voice than what I'm playing. So get to where you can count with it just fine. And then when you can do that, then you can add in the playing. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And when you really feel like you got it, then you don't have to count anymore. And you can listen very carefully to make sure that your notes are falling evenly and right on the beat, right? If you're kind of... and you're not really happening at the same time as the beat, that's not working out, okay? So that's when you know you're making the mistake. Now for triplets, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And again, if I'm kind of messing around and not really playing with the metronome, that just makes a mess. That's not what we want. We don't want a mess. We want this very, very, very structured. Now, I know in the blues and in a lot of music, you know, the structure and making it really, really super precise and all this stuff may not seem like what you want as the final goal. And it may not be what you want as your final goal, but without it, this is one of those cases where without really, really being able to know the rules and effectively play by the rules, it's going to be really tough to break them. So that was at 60 beats a minute. Now, in my experience, it's hard to go much slower than that. If I go down to, let's say, 50 beats a minute, there's so much time between clicks that sometimes it's a little bit more challenging. I can do it 4 and 1 and 2 and 3, but I tend to have to fix it more. I have to really listen carefully so that I don't get ahead. Okay? Same with triplets. I have to make very fine adjustments a lot. Now, in all likelihood, you're going to have that at any pace. That's what this is. It's constant vigilance, right? You have to listen to every beat and sort of make an assessment. Am I a little bit ahead? Am I a little bit behind? Am I slowing down? Am I speeding up? You have to stay with it. Every single time you hear that click or that beep, whatever it is, you need to pay attention and say, am I still with it? And if I'm not, do I need to go just a little bit faster, or do I need to go just a little bit slower? That takes some practice. Okay, so to be able to effectively do that at a comfortable tempo, both in eighth notes and triplets, that is your first major goal. When I say a comfortable tempo, it's going to be different for everybody, but my guess on the eighth notes is somewhere around 120 beats per minute. So I'm at 60 right now. So I was just at 50, but if I go up to 120, one and two and three and four and one and two and three and four and one. Now triplets at that pace is a little tougher, but ideally this is where you want to get. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a... Now, why would I say that? Well, because Pride and Joy cooks along at about 126 beats per minute. So if you want to be able to, play those kinds of, there's a lot of triplet licks in that tune. I sort of try to use that as my baseline. So if you want to be able to play at that speed, your ear has to be able to hear at that speed. That's kind of how that works, truly. Okay, so let's say that you can do that. Let's say that you can play the eighth notes along with the metronome, and you can play the triplets along with the metronome. Now, truth be told, 120 on triplets, I know it's going to be tough. If you get to 100, if you're like at 120, 130 with the eighth notes, say 100 or 90 with the triplets, you're probably in good shape, and you can at least start to also do this next other thing. But keep this in mind. I have plenty of students that come in that can do 170, 180, even 200 in eighth notes. It's not as fast as you think. So don't be afraid of those big numbers. It's really not an issue, okay? You'll get to the point. If I turn this up to 191, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 1 and 2 and 3. Okay, it's totally doable. Similarly, say 140 with triplets. Right? It's totally, that's absolutely not an unreasonable pace. Now, are you going to play stuff like that all the time? No, not at all. And that's why I say, even around 110, 120, you should be fine. But what we really want to be able to do, if you really want to get the coolest stuff, is to be able to go back and forth between the two. And what I mean by that is play, I'm going to bring this back down to 60 for demonstration, but I want to be able to do 4 beats in eighth notes and then 4 beats in triplets. 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and now back to eighth notes. So I'm doing 4 beats of each. When I get to where I can do that, 2 beats of each. 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Then 1 beat. 1, 1, 1, 1. Right now, you might say to yourself, okay, but that sounds really boring. That sounds really lame. I get it. It's just a scale. But if you can feel that rhythm, if you feel comfortable with it, and then you're playing over, something, right? 2, 3, 4. Eighth, triplet, 8, triplet, 8th, triplets, 8th. Right? So I can kind of go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth between them. That's why you want to be able to do it. It sounds really cool. It gives rhythmic variety. Plus, it locks your ear in on this stuff. The way you get to where you don't have to count is your ear locks in. It can subdivide those beats. You just know what they sound like. You know what they feel like, and you just play them. So this is how you do it. For better or for worse, this is how you do it. So no matter where you are, if this is totally new to you, right? Go back towards the beginning of the video. Just work on playing eighth notes to a metronome. Get to where you can count them. Just you and the guitar, right? Counting out loud. Get to where you can count along to the metronome. Then add the guitar. So it's you're counting, you're playing, metronome all together. Every beat you hear, make sure it sounds good. Same thing with the triplets. Start just with your voice and your guitar, and your leg, right? Or foot tapping or something to keep the beat. Add in the metronome, same thing. Then get to where you can do, play the scale up and down in eighth notes, play the scale up and down in triplets, boost the speed up. Now, by the way, when you boost the speed up, do it in chunks. So let's say you start at 60. Don't go to 65. When you feel pretty good at 60, go to 80, right? It's going to be kind of a shock to the system, but go to 80. Now, you're probably going to make mistakes. It's probably going to be a struggle. I get that. That'll be okay. Do it several times at 80. Then go back to like 70. When you can do, and 70 is going to not seem so bad, right? When you get to where you can do it at 70, but maybe you're still struggling at 80, go to 90. Now you're kind of going to be still struggling at 90, really struggling. But when you go back to 80, it won't seem so bad, right? So I want you to kind of leapfrog with big jumps. Don't just do like 3 or 5 little tiny small increments. You'll plateau that way. We don't want to do that. Our hands will get complacent. We have to make them do what we expect of them in the end. Even though you'll make mistakes, that's okay. Push that speed and then do it several times that way and then come back to where you're comfortable. Then push that speed, then come back to where you're comfortable. Variety is what's important, not the number. Okay? Super important. Follow the process. Let me know how it works for you. All right? If you have guitar playing friends that you think will dig this video, I hope you will share it with them. As always, I'm Griff Hanlon from Blues Guitar Unleashed, and I will talk to you soon. Take care.